So we own these two fields in South Brent, so they're just below the moor. It's about 4.5 acres, and the field that we've made into a meadow is this ridge field here. It's a long, narrow field, and it's about 1.5 acres in size. And it slopes down to the River Avon, so a gentle slope down to the River Avon. It's very well drained. It's in the 1841 census as pasture land. Obviously, I have no idea what's happened to it in the meantime, but it was pasture land when we bought it. It had sheep on it. I don't know how improved it's been. It certainly had dung spread on it. May well have been limed over the years, but I don't know how many sort of chemical fertilisers have been put on. We wanted to make it into a meadow, and we heard about the Avon Valley project, which is run by the Devon Wildlife Trust and Lynn Kenderdine. And we got in touch with Lynn, and she came out and gave us advice on turning the field into a meadow. So the Avon Valley project just supports landowners to make to improve biodiversity and improve wildlife on their grassland and also in woodland as well. So this is 2 years before we started meadow making. So, but it was the best picture I've had of what the grass looked like then. So we've 45 cattle, so they're never all on our two fields, but these two fields are home based, so they have to work really hard. One of the things that we used to do on the field was make hay on both of them. It was Yorkshire fog dominant, so it was grass dominant. There was some cocksfoot in it, but there were a few wildflowers as well. So there was smooth hawk's beard and bird's foot trefoil, that kind of thing, and common sorrel as well. And when Lynn first came, in the summer of the first year we were involved, she did a walk-through survey and counted 22 different species. So this is the process that we followed. So we started in 2017, and Lynn first came out in April and saw it, and she said at that point you've got to close the field up, take the cows off it, just let it grow and sort of see what comes up over the summer. So we did that, and then we cut it for hay in mid-July. Later on in the autumn, we grazed it down with cattle, grazed it down really hard, and then chain harrowed it to rough up the surface of the soil. And then we were given from the Avon Valley project 3 potato sacks full of local wildflower meadow seed that were yellow rattle rich. And the idea of using yellow rattle is because it's parasitic on grass. It helps to knock the grass back and to let other wildflowers have a chance to get established. So we sowed these 3 potato sacks of seed, just broadcast them around the field, and then let the cattle back in. So there was no grass now for the cows to eat, so I put some hay down in the field as well. So they were sort of eating the hay in the field, but also just trampling around in the field and treading the seeds in. So that was in December. And then we've closed the field up in mid-February, the next February, and then went through exactly the same process again with a similar mix of wildflower seeds that had come from a local meadow in the Avon Valley. So we did that for 2 years. So in 2019, we closed the field up again cut it for hay and aftermath grazed with cattle, but we didn't do any further sowing with yellow rattle seeds after that point. And then for the following 3 years, we stopped making hay on that field. We had other sites that we could make hay on, which were bigger but were easier to work on. So we had plenty of hay anyway. And also, I was sort of starting to see what was living in the field, and I sort of felt quite sort of protective of I knew the amphibians that were there, obviously not personally, but that I knew how much was there, and I knew the insects, and I could see where the spiders had got their nests, you know, there's so much in there. The idea of sort of going in with a mower and mowing it all down was actually really quite a difficult thing to do. And the other thing is, you know, compared to, you know, making hay is really hard work, and it's done on the hottest days of the year. And, you know, you've got, apart from making it and putting it in the barn, you've got to then get it out and feed it to the cattle, and the cattle waste lots of it, and, you know, you've got loads of baler twine left over that you end up having to pay to recycle. You know, compared to just opening the gate and letting the cows in to eat it, it's a very much easier thing to do. So that's what we've been doing. So autumn, winter grazing it for the last few years. So I haven't been sowing any more yellow apple, but what I have been doing is picking seeds from a meadow that it's our summer grazing meadow, which happens to be an absolutely fantastic traditional wildflower meadow. Obviously not ideal for summer grazing, so we only sort of graze the bottom part of it, but we let the wildflowers do their thing on that meadow, and I've been picking a few seeds from that as they come along, and then just hand sowing them into the field in the autumn, and again letting the cattle tread them in. So this is the first summer after sowing our first lot of yellow rattle rich seeds. So we didn't get very many yellow rattle plants at all, and it was really sort of, you could count them, and they were sort of sporadic, and you can see the grass is still really dominant. So nothing really very much happened the first year. But the second year, we were really starting to see lots and lots of yellow rattle, and yellow rattle was becoming dominant really in the grassland. So this was May 2019. By June,
Stone me.
Really see it.
Problem.
In fact, there was so much we were able to donate it to the Devon Wildlife Trust. They came with a seed harvester and took, I think it was 15 kilos of yellow rattle seeds off it. And so it was really wonderful to be able to give back, you know, having been given seeds in the first place. And I was a little bit concerned because, you know, we do need to feed the cows as well. So I sort of thought, gosh, you know, where's the grass gone? But cows actually do like yellow rattle, as it turned out, so that was okay. So the next year after that, it was again just dense with yellow rattle. And this is the 15th. Both of those pictures were on the 15th of June, but a year apart. So you know, it was much more advanced, the seeds that year. And we wanted to donate it again, but I think they had trouble with the seed harvester. Wasn't working properly, so we weren't able to donate it. But people were able to just come and help themselves to it. And then that was grazed down later on in the autumn. So we were interested to see what happened the next year, because we hadn't planted any sort of further seeds apart from the hand sowing of seeds that I've been doing. And it really started to change again. So by 2021, there was many more wildflowers too. So lots of clover. So there'd been some white clover to begin with, but there was lots of red clover, lots of white clover now. Masses of ribwort plantain, lots of meadow and tufted meadow vetchling, and some vetches as well. It was muffled up, and birdfoot greater and common birdfoot trefoil, and lesser trefoils as well. So lots more plants appearing that some that were there before, but in very small numbers. But the numbers of them had sort of the proportions had changed again, and much less yellow rattle, as you can see. And also that year was our first southern marsh orchid, so our first orchid, which I was absolutely delighted to find. But you can see all the eyebright as well that was coming up as well, which is fantastic because that's also parasitic on grass too. So I think there was a lot of eyebright in the seed mix that we've been given to begin with. So we were sort of starting to see lots of that, and again you can see the ribwort plantain there as well. So this is hand sowing seeds from the meadow in Avon where I picked them from. So I was hand sowing wild carrot, some wild parsnip, yarrow, oxeye daisy, which I haven't ever seen anything come up of those at all. So I don't know whether they're still on their way. I don't know. We'll see. And these are some of the cattle, so they're there. So this grass is much longer than it would have been when we were properly sowing seeds. So I'm just sort of putting the seeds into the hoof divots there, and then cows will just stay on there for a few more weeks and just keep grazing it and just putting things in. Oops. So it changed again last year. And we had, depending on sort of where you looked really, it kind of looked different in different places. So you can see all the eyebright now. So now there was a kind of a massive eyebright where there had been a massive yellow rattle before, but still yellow rattle there. And again, sort of similar, kind of a mix of other wildflowers as well as we'd seen before. But also our first leafweed plants as well, which I was really pleased to see. So it's possible they had been there before, but because we were making hay, we weren't seeing them because they were, you know, taking the flowers or taking the plants down before they had a chance to flower or set seed. And again, sort of starting to look much more balanced now. With last year we had quite a few southern marsh orchids, counted about 30 or so. Still lots of eyebright, and some more interesting grasses as well, so dog's cress grass as well. Okay, so that's I was going to talk about maintenance. So we, apart from grazing down now in the autumn with cattle, the only maintenance we do actively is bracken control. So we have a real problem with bracken, and being a long narrow field, it's growing in from the edges. If we let it, it'll just grow in from the edges until it's just covered the whole field, which it has been in some years like that. And we can't just go in now and mow the whole lot because we'll be mowing all the wildflowers down. So what I do is I've got a long-handled pruner, and I've got it on our table at the back if you want to come and have a look. I've had to adapt it slightly because it wasn't really up to the job. But I just walked through the meadow, just starting from, you know, I'll be starting in the next few weeks. Whenever I see a bracken frond, I'll just snip it. And whilst it's kind of fleshy, I'll just leave it to rot away. And I just sort of walk around in the evenings doing that. So it's quite pleasant, and you know, do enjoy doing it. And you can kind of see what's going on in the meadow as well, and you know what insects and things are living there. When the plants get woodier, I'll still be doing it, but it has a cut and grab, so you can actually pick the whole thing up and put it in a wheelbarrow or something, and just sort of take it away. Well, because they're big, can get really quite big. Okay, so I think that's it from me. Okay.